Round 2 was a chance for many of the clubs to rebound from a disappointing round 1. Some did exactly that, while a couple teams gave an ominous warning sign to the rest of the competition that they are no joke in 2025. Now there were quite a few blowouts in round 2, but at least a pair of the scheduled games came down to the end and were the best matches we have seen up until this point. There is plenty to go through as the second full round of the season is now done and dusted. We have to start with the two teams who were the most impressive. The Adelaide Crows overcame their MCG Hoodoo and blasted a cricket score of 161 on the Bombers. In 2023, Adelaide led the league in total points, and even further back in 2017, the Crows were also the number one offence, by a ridiculous 281 points over second place. The powerhouse Crows look back. They did all of this with Isaac Rankin playing just 57% time on ground, getting rested early in the third quarter. Thilthorpe and Fogarty kicked 3 each, and the Smalls and Rochelle, Keys and Rankin of course look so dynamic and improved. Small shifts in Laird to defence in favour of Saligo and Crouch as the primary ball winners has unlocked Dawson and Rankin on the outside. Now some might question their opponents, but you can only beat who is in front of you, and no matter who you play, kicking 46 goals in 2 games is something we don't see in this day and age. Adelaide look back. For Essendon, the critics will come racing in, and that's fair enough. Either they can't or won't defend the ground, and it's become blatantly clear their high draft picks over the past few years just aren't reaching the elite levels. The other big statement win was from North Melbourne. They do look different this season. They outplayed the Bulldogs for 3 quarters last week and controlled the game against Melbourne, finishing them off with an 8-goal blistering last quarter. There are similarities to Adelaide, especially in the recruiting department. Darling, Parker and Daniel have added a nice layer of depth and allowed Sheasel, McKercher and Simpkin to play higher up the ground. The midfield is full of top-line draft picks all entering their prime, and Cherry is just about the number 1 ruck in the comp. Through 2 rounds, the Kangas have dominated the clearance game and are now finally working out how to capitalise and put that dominance on the scoreboard. Charlie Comben is emerging as an elite intercept defender, and Larkey looks fantastic. There is finally a spine to this North Melbourne side, and the small bits and pieces around that are moving along nicely. They are no longer easy beats, and will be brimming with confidence. It starts and mostly ends in the middle, and North Melbourne in terms of talent have just as much as any other club. It's fitting that Adelaide and North Melbourne face off against each other next week at the Adelaide Oval. The responses of a number of clubs were also on watch. St Kilda exceeded all expectations. What an effort, and for Geelong, they just can't beat the Saints at Marvel Stadium. It's now 4 in a row they have lost against St Kilda at the venue. It's just one of those matchups for them that they can't overcome. But the night was all about St Kilda. Jack McRae is looking like the recruit of the year, amassing huge numbers in the midfield and looking clean and damaging again with his disposal. But as Ross said in his presser, the experienced guys led from the front. Sinclair, Steele and Jones all did their thing, and Wanganeen Malira followed on. They brought the heat and were overall a bit cleaner than Geelong. Last week everyone said it was a disaster for the Saints, but this is more where they are at. Still an overall young team with a bit of pop and dangerous when their senior players are on. Port Adelaide did what they always do when Ken Hinkley is under pressure. Go out and perform. It wasn't a surprise result against Richmond, but a much needed one. Jack Lukosius' knee injury is not good, and there are still holes in the team, but Captain Connor Ozee couldn't have started his year much better. If they can get his running mate and Zach Butters back soon, Port Adelaide will be at just about full strength. Now the Eagles and Blues were better in their 2 tight losses. Carlton had big momentum at times against Hawthorn, but got torched on the outside as the game continued on, and their lack of elite kicks is becoming an issue. West Coast effort was there, but in a similar way to Carlton, when Brisbane got going, their quality was a level above. Both took a step in the right direction, but work is to be done. To avoid a 0-3 start, Carlton have to beat the Western Bulldogs at Marvel on Friday night, and it shapes as a fascinating duel. Then there were the two games of the round. Friday night saw Footscray celebrate 100 years in the VFL AFL competition, and the game lived up to the occasion. There was no fairy tale finish for the Bulldogs, but a 6-point loss to a team with on average double the game's experience is a good effort. Now the free kick tally was put on notice, especially the two insufficient intent calls, both going against the Dogs, but on expected score, the Pies won 92-62, and that made sense. Collingwood did blow a lot of chances late, and probably should have sewn up the result earlier in the last term. Still, how good was it to see Sam Darcy against Nick Dacos? Darcy is a talent we have never seen before, and a 13 disposal last quarter by Dacos, with some help from Steele Sidebottom, was just enough to get a nice 4 points. The other thriller was the crescendo of the round. It was a close game, but also one that was hard to watch at times. Dean Cox has finally got his first win as senior coach, beating Fremantle by 3 points. And now leaves the Dockers 0-2 with a Western Derby coming up, and finally Sydney gets that win on the board after a few impressive performances. McCartan looked at home in defence, gathering intercept possessions, albeit Josh Tracy still kicked 4 goals, and the brilliance of Chad Warner was on full display. Now the pressure will mount on Justin Longmuir, but he still has time. Shai Bolton still needs to find his feet, and Sean Darcy and Hayden Young are still out with injury. No doubt, they will need a win next week against the Eagles to get some momentum going in their season. Round 3 is looking full of great matchups. The Western Derby to close out the round is a must watch, but it is a shame that GWS vs Hawthorn and Brisbane vs Geelong are both on at 7:35 on Saturday night. I know the AFL had to reschedule the Lions and Cats game, but surely another time slot could have been found. Still, it's a great slate of 8 games, with Collingwood and Sydney off with a bye.